where we left off in the last session, we were talking about navigation and trying to find a point at a point within the 3D fractal environment that looks interesting, but also I tend to look for ways in which the fractal environment will be a good animation. I don't really get into a whole lot of still fractal Mandelbulb fractal images. I tend to go for the animations, and I tend to go for 4K if it's reasonable in terms of video resolution, and that makes my job a lot harder. But I've done an awful lot of stills in the past of both the Mandelbulb as well as other types of fractal software generators, and I'm sort of kind of graduated into the animations. So what I also, when I'm developing a fractal animation, I tend to look at as I'm moving along through the manipulating of the Mandelbulb 3D formula properties and the position. I tend to look for evidence of whether or not it's a good candidate for animation. All right, so let's continue this now. So what I was doing in the last session is I was playing with the various formulas. All right, just kind of playing around, and because working with the Mandelbulb fractal graphics is really a process of discovery. What you're trying to do here is to find a graphic which is interesting, that meets your various criteria as to what you're attempting to do as a graphic artist. You're attempting to find a graphic. I'm attempting to find a graphic that has meaning to it, that is interesting, that has a nice theme to it. I just went back to a field of view of 50, which is more normal, and I want to get that field of view back up to say 5,000. Okay, now again, I'm trying to get close to my model, which I discovered a week ago or so, and I'm thinking, hey, that would make an interesting animation. So that's what I am attempting to do here, and these things take time. So let's see. Okay, so Formula One. All right, let's continue to. The min-r is quite an interesting property of the amazing box formula. It does some radical changes, and it can be quite interesting. Let's see here. I think I want to go. I'm going to go on that. Oh, there we go. Now we're starting to. I'm going to turn down the lighting here. All right, this little control right here, in the spirit of tutorial, this is lightness. Now, your Navigator is not utilizing the lighting that has been assigned over here somewhere. Let me close this tab here. Lighting. Okay, it's not using the lighting fully. There are no shadows that is being put into this. It's using the light positions. It's not very faithful when it comes to the colors, but that's not its intent. The intent of the Navigator view is so that you get a very quick, rapidly drawn graphic so that you can see your pattern. But they did provide a lightness control here so that you can get some better idea as to what your graphic looks like. All right, now I'm going to continue here messing around with the properties. Now, again, in the spirit of tutorial, let's talk about this adjustments. Your default would be fine. You power up the software, your default is fine. That is actually the number of the rapidness that each of these slider controls will provide. It's very difficult. Maybe one notch. You see, you look at the difference. We've got a 0.94, one notch, 0.99. All right, so this is the rapidness of the slider value change. If I do big, one notch is going to do huge amounts of change. All right. If I do, let's see, this is min, this is fine. Okay, so my mistake, it's yeah, okay, right. Your default is mid. If I go fine, I reduce the amount of value change, reduce it relative to mid. If I go minimum, I reduce it even further. So basically, I can get some very, very fine changes here in terms of the value of these sliders. It applies to all the sliders. It applies to all the sliders of all the formulas. All right. So what I tend to do here is I might have it in mid so that I can kind of really kind of haul along here, and there we go, and get close. All right. Then I might go to fine and tweak it a little bit more. I mean, you can see the dramatic difference in the visuals with just a little bit of parameter value change. And I'll go to min, and I'll have an even finer control over the value, which impacts the visual. All right. So that's how you can kind of tweak it in. Now I can also come in here and click on that number value, and I can enter a number. I don't know, let's say 0.8427. All right. Oh, I did a comma. Point. All right. Enter. And that put that value in for me. So I can manually enter the value, yeah, that way. All right, or I could use it with the slider, and I have huge value change, mid, fine, and minimum, or very fine value change this way with this control up here. Now let me just say that I have found that when I utilize this magnification feature here, I tend to, the application tends to crash. I mean, I might be able to do 120, I have found, and the application remains stable, but when I push it way up into here, into 160 and 200, I've seen the application crash, and it seems to be related to picking a high zoom rate. That's the amount of zoom that you're going to have in your Navigator. So, I mean, I just tend to, I only use the Navigator really to give me a general idea as to what my graphic looks like. I don't use it for lighting. I don't use it for shadowing. I use it really just to kind of settle in what my graphics would look like. Let's push that to main. Let's calculate. All right, I like where this is going, so I'm going to do a parameter save, and I'm going to say 03, and I'm going to leave it for good and save it. All right, and so I'm in pretty good shape. I'll see you in the next session, where we'll continue our development of our Mandelbulb 3D animation project. I'll see you there.